Authorities in Taiwan are on alert as a suspicious Russian cargo ship stalks its southern waters. Can plans to tighten restrictions on AI tech help the U.S. keep its edge? We try out a Taiwanese board game challenging players to navigate a Chinese invasion.
它算是第一次台湾用自己的视角去看这一个台海的一个冲突。
Plus,
how did this humble boxed lunch for lumberjacks become a nationwide sensation? We've come to a tiny train station in southern Taiwan to find out.
a warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. A suspicious Russian cargo ship has been detected lingering off southern Taiwan, close to some of the country's undersea cables. It comes after recent incidents of cables being damaged by civilian ships off the northern coast of Taiwan and in the Baltic Sea in Europe. Chris Goring has more.
Here's what we know about the suspicious Russian ship near southern Taiwan. The Vasily Shushkin, a Russian-made cargo ship, is flying the flag of Belize and is registered to a Hong Kong company. Public data shows its route, leaving Russia's Far East, docking briefly in Busan, South Korea, and then heading near Pingdong County in southern Taiwan. The ship stayed in that area for over 3 weeks without docking in any Taiwanese ports. This raised concerns as the area is close to undersea cables critical for Taiwan's internet. Around 10 p.m. last night, it started moving north along Taiwan's west coast. As of this afternoon, it's now off the central coast of Taiwan, reportedly heading to Vietnam, weeks behind schedule. Taiwan's Coast Guard says the ship entered its territorial waters but didn't cut any cables. But the fact that it was loitering near those cables is cause for suspicion, especially after incidents involving Russian and Chinese ships damaging cables in Europe late last year and here in Taiwan earlier this month. TaiwanPlus spoke with Ray Powell at Stanford University, who tracks maritime gray zone activities, and here's what he told us.
We haven't seen a lot of these loitering ships off the coast that just sort of wander around, whether they are looking for submarine cables, whether they are collecting intelligence. What exactly they are up to is, I don't know. But I am noticing an increase in activity off of Taiwan's coast. And I think it's something that's going to take a lot more study.
We may find out more about this ship in the coming days, but the fact that it was able to linger in southern Taiwan for so long without much incident is surely to raise a lot more questions. Chen, Devin Tsai, Jaime Ocon, and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. is set to tighten restrictions on exports of chips and AI-related technologies to stay ahead of the competition. This follows the Biden administration's continued efforts to limit China's access to advanced chips. Joyce Sung reports.
With just days until U.S. President Joe Biden leaves office, Washington has come out with new restrictions on its most advanced technology, this time focused on artificial intelligence chips. Throughout his presidency, Biden has imposed rule after rule to thwart China's access to cutting-edge chips and maintain U.S. tech dominance. This latest move goes a step further, putting countries into 3 groups, slapping a complete export block of advanced GPUs, the specialized processor AI needs, to these countries, including China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. On the other end of the spectrum are 18 of the U.S.'s closest allies and partners, which includes Taiwan, with unlimited access to its AI technology. The countries left, essentially the rest of the world, will have caps on how many AI chips it can have, with potential licenses for firms who follow Washington rules.
I mean, certainly it does seem like they're trying to get something out as sort of a last win for their administration, but there is, I think, almost a sense within industry and even governments that the United States just simply keeps asking and asking and asking other governments, other companies to play ball with the United States government without any actual sort of give back.
Those in the business of AI chips have been criticizing the plan, including California-based AI powerhouse NVIDIA. The firm's Taiwan-born CEO, Jensen Huang, just recently unveiled a GPU that's twice as powerful as its previous model.
Here it is.
The company says the latest controls are misguided and threatens to squander the U.S.'s tech advantage. Other firms like Microsoft and ChatGPT owner OpenAI had more muted responses. Microsoft saying it was confident it could comply with the high security standards.
Your NVIDIAs and your Oracles got caught offside or blindsided by this. But I think Microsoft in many ways had been sort of underwriting what a potential playbook or pilot for this could look like. Well, Microsoft had been negotiating this G42 deal with the UAE government for months. In fact, I think in many ways that served as the pilot for how we think about exporting chips to all these other bands of countries.
For Taiwan, though the new rules won't apply, its firms like TSMC will still need to be vigilant, wary of where its restricted advanced tech may end up. The chip-making giant has already cut ties with a Singapore-based client after a TSMC chip was found in a phone by Huawei, the Chinese telecoms giant blacklisted by Washington since 2019. A potential wildcard is incoming President Donald Trump, whose administration will have to enforce the rules. But with his own tough approach on China, high-tech controls may just be a point of continuity in this transition of power. Chris Ma and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Chinese social media platform Xiaohongshu has become the most downloaded app in the U.S. App Store amid an impending ban on TikTok. The app, also known as Red Note in the U.S., is one of two Chinese apps that American content creators are now turning to. Xiaohongshu is often described as a Chinese version of Instagram and Pinterest. The mass migration comes as TikTok influencers worry they will lose access to the app after January 19th, when the Chinese parent company ByteDance is required to sell off its U.S. asset or face a shutdown. The Supreme Court is currently weighing whether to uphold that law. North Korea has reportedly fired several missiles off its east coast. South Korea's military reported the launch, which comes just days ahead of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration and during a visit by the Japanese foreign minister to Seoul. This is North Korea's second missile test of the year. South Korea has condemned the launch. A Taiwanese company is preparing to launch a new board game called 2045. Set 20 years in the future, it challenges players to navigate an old-out invasion by China. Jaime Okan got an exclusive first playtest.
Robot dogs, sci-fi villains, and secret military units. These are just some of the characters found in 2045, a new board game set in a possible near future. Although meant to be fun, the game's premise, China conducting a so-called special military operation against Taiwan, is deadly serious. TaiwanPlus was invited for an exclusive playtest with some key people from Mizo Games, its designer, ahead of its launch.
设计游戏的目的，第一就是要好玩。2045的话是一个现实主义的游戏，玩家只会有一个赢家。它算是第一次台湾用自己的视角，台湾的 view 去看这一个台海的一个冲突。
Participants take turns playing out scenarios where China's military, those are the pieces in red, fight Taiwanese forces in green. There are also side missions where players have the option to support unification with China in return for points. Every player begins with a secret role, ranging from spy to weapons dealer to prominent public figures.
接下来我们有一个可能长得很像某个台湾可能某个总统的，叫做台湾自卫队。对，它是一个光谱上比较倾向守护台湾，但是同样的，你即使身为台湾自卫队，你也可以选择帮助共军。
The design team has worked hard on the game's visuals, with cards representing China's military based on real units.
A big part of what makes this game unique is the blend of realistic and sci-fi components. The board game shows realistic city centers in Taiwan, and the cards show sci-fi kind of drawings of Taiwan-inspired aspects of both the military, civil defense groups, and just kind of important infrastructure like reservoirs and satellite infrastructure.
Crowdfunding for 2045 began in August, and with both the game and cross-strait tensions grabbing headlines, it's already raised over $120,000 US. As China continues to threaten Taiwan with invasion in order to bring it under its control, Chang says that this war game highlights what he views as a dark reality. Not everyone in Taiwan is on the same team.
不必须要合作的，那这件事是我们故意的，对，就算我是一个台湾人，我们做了一个就是一个 war game， 但是在这个游戏中，其实我们是故意用realism 的那种方式去呈现说，其实战争非常残酷，然后我们到最后，这个游戏的最后是有可能中共赢的，而且几率蛮高的。
Despite the game giving players the option to sabotage each other to gain points, KJ says he's inspired by a common trait he's noticed amongst Taiwanese players.
如果是台湾人的话，他们会比较 unselfish， 他们会想要让台湾赢，可是让台湾赢就有可能会让自己的就是名次往后退。对，但是大部分的台湾人他会比较想要我要团结，我要 fight back。
With the first batch set for release, the designers at Mizo Games hope their project sparks awareness about the realities of war, offering a platform for discussion and a chance to learn about its harsh truths firsthand, all while allowing players to have a bit of fun. Luffy Li and Jaime Okan in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has honored a former foreign minister of Lithuania for his help forging closer ties between the two countries. Gabrielius Landsbergis received the Order of Brilliant Star with Grand Cordon from Taiwan President Lai Ching-te. During his time in office, Lithuania allowed Taiwan to open a representative office in a Baltic state with the name Taiwanese, despite opposition from China, and it donated COVID-19 vaccines to Taiwan. Meeting with Lai, Landsbergis reiterated that freedom-loving people should stand together.
And I have a belief that this is the connector. This is the main connector between Lithuania and Taiwan, a feeling of freedom and support to each other.
Taiwan thanks Gabrielius Landsbergis for closer ties. 15 years ago, a devastating typhoon swept away the tracks of Taiwan's iconic Alishan Forest Railway. Now, this century-old treasure is back on track and more captivating than ever. Today, in the latest episode of Where's the Jiayi County Chief Taking Us?, Andrew Ryan encounters an unusual passenger and samples a train lunch fit for a lumberjack.
The ultimate mode of slow travel, a century-old Taiwanese train route known as one of the most beautiful high mountain railways in the world. This is the Alishan Forest Railway, built during the Japanese occupation of Taiwan to transport lumber down from the mountains. It entered service in 1912. But after they put an end to logging in 1963, the railway became a popular tourist attraction.
这个铁道也是有它的特色，就独一无二的一个建起来的这个方式，对不对？
因为它要爬过高山，然后慢慢的往上一直爬，所以它要绕山，整个绕，然后从这座山要爬到那座山，所以它有一种叫做之字形的爬法。
The unique way the railway was built is a huge draw for train nerds like me. There are spiral-shaped tracks and curved alignments that hug the mountains, in addition to the zigzagging switchbacks. Together, these help the train climb 2,400 meters over a 78-kilometer journey. The railway is not only one of Taiwan's most renowned cultural landmarks, it's also the highest narrow-gauge train route in all of Asia. But the high altitude also makes the railway vulnerable to the elements. In 2009, Typhoon Morakot brought the worst flooding in 50 years, washing out sections of the track. The only way to get to the top was by bus. After 15 years of repairs, they've finally restored service to the entire line, with some new options for train buffs.
那现在有2台非常好的这个高山火车，一台叫做福生号，它是完全快木打造的。一台叫做许业号，它是用这个阿里山的迎宾鸟，那当做它彩绘的设计。2个小火车都非常有特色。
One of the first new trains bringing travelers to the top had a very unusual passenger on board. This is incredible. This is the first time that I've ever seen anything like this, and they tell me it's the first time they've ever done this. Basically, it's the goddess Matu, who is one of the most popular goddesses in all of Taiwan, the goddess of the sea. She's come down from Jiayi City, and she's come up to the top of this most popular tourist destination of all of Taiwan, bringing blessings and good wishes for all the people along the way. I've never seen a goddess take a train before. I guess she has to fit into a seat as well. One of the biggest draws for visitors to this train station, Fenqihu, is the bento box lunches called biandang in Taiwan. In the old days, the early morning train from Jiayi City would arrive here by midday. Lumberjacks and tourists would hop off and grab lunch while workers changed the engines on the train. At its peak, this diner sold thousands of biandang every day. Now, the fourth-generation owner has given each biandang a special name.
我们家族就是跟这个阿里山铁道是唇齿相依的，就跟这一些文化、人事物都有很深厚的感情，所以我们不想让这一些记忆流失掉，所以我们就把我们的便当都取名这一些铁道员的名字。 为这个铁路贡献奉献的人。
One of the most popular offerings is called the engine driver. It contains chicken, rice, several fresh local veggies, and plums pickled with tea grown right here in these mountains.
所以我们这边的便当有芬多精的味道，有铁道的味道，所以非常好吃。
These days, you can buy Fenqihu boxed lunches at convenience stores all across Taiwan. But that doesn't stop people from making tracks back up the mountain for the taste of days gone by. Devin Tsai, Joseph Wu, Peachy Drong, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus. Coming up in part 3 of our series, we find out what the people of Alishan call green gold. Here's a hint, it's a condiment that packs a punch.
Join us every day this week for a fresh episode of our series, Where is the Jiayi County Chief Taking Us? Coming up after the break. A family in eastern Taiwan works to carry on a traditional handicraft across generations.
2025 is calling. Louder, brighter, and bolder. From the roar of the crowds to the quiet moments of triumph. A year to experience sports at its finest. Grab your tickets, tune in, and cheer like never before. Every play counts. Every minute matters. Game on Taiwan.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A South Korean lawmaker says some 3,000 North Koreans have been injured fighting against Ukraine, including 300 killed. The lawmaker had been briefed by South Korea's intelligence agency. The lawmaker said the North Korean soldiers fighting alongside Russia lack understanding of modern warfare, leading to the high casualty rate. He also said the soldiers may have been told to kill themselves rather than let themselves be captured. On Sunday, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine is holding 2 North Korean prisoners and is ready to exchange them for Ukrainian soldiers held by Russia. A report by advocacy group Blood Money Campaign says Myanmar's military is still procuring jet fuel despite sanctions on domestic fuel companies. Myanmar's government in exile had civic groups are calling for an all-out ban on jet fuel to the country, citing the devastating impacts of airstrikes on the civilian population. To learn more, Gino Lopez spoke to Mark Fominator from Burma Campaign UK.
How is the Myanmar junta still procuring aviation fuel despite international sanctions against them?
The Myanmar military doesn't have the ability to manufacture its own jet fuel, its own aviation fuel. We have Chinese and Vietnamese companies, shipping companies, and fuel companies are now involved in the supply. indirectly. I think the main problem we have is, although you might see some of the Western countries boast about the sanctions they've imposed on jet fuel to try to reduce airstrikes, all they've done so far is sanction a small number of Myanmar companies who have been selling jet fuel to the military. They haven't sanctioned any of the international suppliers yet.
What impact has the circumvention of aviation fuel sanctions had on the country's civilian population?
Since the attempted coup began in 2021, and the military started using these airstrikes on a daily basis, more than 4,000 airstrikes, we've seen there's around, probably more now than 4 million people in the country have been forced to flee their homes because of airstrikes or conflict. It's not just about the bombs and how many people they're killing, because in the long run, more people are probably killed by airstrikes by the fact that they are then displaced. They haven't got access to safe shelter, to healthcare, to nutritious food.
There are concerns that the sanction on all jet fuel to Myanmar could bring much economic harm. Why is the Blood Money campaign and Myanmar civil society still calling for this blanket ban?
We know from past experience that even when jet fuel is delivered for civilian use, the military can take it. So the only way to cut off the supply of jet fuel to the military is to cut off supply of jet fuel to Myanmar itself. And so far, the international community have refused to take that step. And one of the reasons they give is, we're worried about the economic impact. But this is a decision for the people of Myanmar to make. This is the people in the country who are suffering from the airstrikes are saying, we need you to do this, because without the jet fuel, the jets can't fly. And if the jets can't fly, they can't bomb.
That was Gino Lopez speaking with Mark Fominator from Burma Campaign UK. An Elan County family is holding tight to a tradition of hand-making high-quality gongs. The family's workshop is beloved by percussionists and is now in its third generation. John Van Tres takes a look inside.
No temple celebration or traditional parade would be complete without the crash and boom of gongs. And these beautiful bronze creations are a staple of the contemporary stage too, with percussionists pushing their sonic possibilities to their limits. Buy a professional-grade gong in Taiwan today, and there's a serious chance you're buying a piece forged by 71-year-old master craftsman Lin Lieji. His workshop in the northeast county of Ilan accounts for 80% of national production, a remarkable feat considering his gongs are completely made by hand. A single step, like hammering the sides until they curve just right, can take hours. But this kind of care is what gives the gongs their famed quality. This family enterprise got an unexpected start in 1947. A local traditional music troupe had a gong in need of repair. Lin's father was a skilled ironworker, but had no real idea about how to go about fixing a musical instrument. Luckily, the repair was a success, and in the decades that followed, gongs took over the workshop, making its reputation internationally. This With orders pouring in, the Lin family of 5 was swamped with work, even continuing to toil through the weekend. Though the heyday of demand for handmade gongs may be past, the company is still going strong, thanks to orders from demanding percussionists who know this is the place to get just the sound they want. There are large hanging gongs, carefully hammered to adjust their pitch and tone. And there are whole sets of smaller gongs, able to play melodies over several octaves. Each is fine-tuned before being shipped out. Now the workshop is in its third generation of family ownership. Son Lin Haoxian first picked up a hammer to help out in grade 6. But he had his heart set on medical school and a career as a doctor. One day, however, as he struggled to work on one of his father's gongs, he realized how much more he still had to learn about the art, and that here in the workshop was where he really belonged.
曾经试着下去焊一面螺啦，一面螺焊一个早上焊不完，但他就后来就说奇怪，我焊一面螺可能2个小时就好了，或是1个半小时就好了。他就在外面会一直看啊，我就一直焊，一直破洞，一直焊，一直破洞，我就一直在补那些破洞。
Having a son to carry on the business is something that makes the elder Lin happy. Old age and years of testing gongs at close quarters have left him hard of hearing. The family hopes to keep the business going through more generations, cementing its place as a center of traditional culture and refined technique. John Su and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we bring you some of the vehicles on display at the Detroit Auto Show, which runs through next Monday. I'm Betty Chen. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus. Be sure to follow us on social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world.